I was,
Ok. Vamos a grabar aquí. Y muy buenos días, buenos días.
buenos días.
Es un lunes magnífico,
Sí,
qué buen día. What a good day. Ah, excelente. Quick reminder
Tito.
about signups. I think we were maybe too shy, but I have not checked this weekend. And I know there are a lot of folks who will probably do a sign up, so I'm hoping this will carry, but we are getting a little bit closer to that wire. So if you haven't signed up, please do consider doing that.
The email
First
from
bird.
Scottsdale this morning said one shy.
said
One shy? Oh,
one shy.
okay. I think we will get that. I will check it out after after we have class. Vale. Magnifico. We're going to take a walk down the lane of that superlative thing and really kind of wrap our mind around why that's a thing, why it's important. Is it important? Well, yeah, sí, pues sí. Well, sure it is. Y por qué and why, and how to do it, and lots of examples of how to do it. So that's going to be our main push for our session today, and hopefully we'll have some creative ways to do that. And we'll talk about the rules, but the more importantly, we're going to actually pop in lots of examples. And also, también, also, because everything about comparisons, whether they are just plain old comparisons or superlatives, all of that really talks about, sometimes it's subjective, but sometimes it is opinion. So we're going to take a look again and review this, because a good little snippet to always know with comparisons or superlatives or lots of other things is how to say I think. There are different ways to say I think. In Spanish, a lot of different ways to say I think. And I'm hoping we can squeeze in at the end of class an extra video about the I think piece. So let's take a look at the I think piece, which you may want to precede comparisons with these if it's a subjective comparison. Okay, a subjective comparison. Ways to say I think, and these are all kind of equal. I mean, people will use what they feel like, but yo pienso que, and pensar, of course, is to think. Pienso que, you can skip the yo, of course. Me parece que, this one is actually pretty common. Me parece que, it seems to me. Yo creo que, I think that, or just, of course, drop the yo there. Creo que, I think that. Creo que, creer is to believe, and creo que, I think is, I think I hear people say creo que more than they say pienso que. I think it's just, wow, this is a subjective thing on my part too, but I think creo que is more commonly heard than pienso que. Creo que, I believe that. Opino que, and we have a not very frequently used word in English to opine on something, which means to give your opinion. And so think of it that way. Opino que, my opinion is. And
Marilyn?
opino que, I would say, is a little more highfalutin term. So probably if you're in a more, I don't know, philosophical, deep discussion, that kind of thing. See, Lori.
Is it, yo opino? Is that a verb?
Opino es un verbo.
It's not a noun.
Opinar, an AR verb, opinar. Opino, opinamos, opina. ¿Qué opinas? ¿Qué opinas? What is your opinion? Yeah. Instead of asking what is your opinion, ¿qué opinas? Yeah. It's an AR verb and it's a regular verb and it's really easy to use. Again, I think it's a little higher level. So if you're having a deeper level conversation, you know, if you're having a more everyday conversation, it's going to be, okay, por ejemplo, for example, creo que debemos cocinar pollo hoy. I think we should cook chicken today. That's a more everyday kind of opinion, yeah? So probably you wouldn't want to use opino to talk about what do you think we should, cook for dinner. But at the workplace, opino que works better when you have a workplace opinion in a discussion with colleagues. So to give you an idea of that, just different levels, there are different levels of I think that. But I think those two in the middle of me parece que and creo que are actually the most common for the everyday chit chat exchange of what you think. And notice this me parece que is the one that doesn't get conjugated for yo. Yeah. Me parece, it seems to me. So parece always gets conjugated that way, right? To say, I think, because something seems a certain way to you. So it's like gustar again. It's like gustar. Yeah. It's conjugated for the thing that seems a certain way. Yeah, whatever that might be. Bien. Okay, but we'll come back to that in just a bit. Vale, bueno. Okay, I want to precede the next thing. We're going to start to dive into our superlatives here. ¿Y por qué es importante? Why is it important? So this may seem obvious, or maybe you've never thought of it. No sé, I don't know. Let's take a look at these things that we had used last week, but I've added one little element in to illustrate why superlatives are different than comparisons. They are all kind of, in a way, comparisons, but superlatives takes one thing and makes it top of the heap. I always like to say, with comparisons, you only need 2 items, 2 people, 2 things, 2 ideas. But with superlatives, you got to have more than 2 in the mix. And it might be, how many things you're comparing might be undefined. It might be an entire category of things. Like you might want to talk about all cats, or all snakes, or all sports cars, everything that's in the category of a sports car, or all cars, any kind of a motor vehicle, right? But you have to have at least 3 items to do a superlative, at least 3. Yeah. So that's the idea. Entonces, por ejemplo, el águila es el pájaro más grande. El águila es el pájaro más grande. It's the biggest bird. O, por ejemplo, el colibrí es el pájaro más pequeño. It's the littlest bird in the group. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 tipos de perros. Por ejemplo, aquí el Saint Bernard, el San Bernardo es la raza más grande de los 3 perros. ¿Sí? El San Bernardo es la raza breed, because a breed is a race when we talk about dogs. Es la raza más grande de los 3 perros aquí. Bien. Por ejemplo, ¿sí? Este snack es el más barato. And I call them palomitas, but they're about, I kid you not, maybe 7 or 8 words for popcorn, depending on which country you're in. So I'm going to pick the palomitas. Las palomitas de maíz, ¿sí? Es el snack más barato. It's the cheapest snack. de los tres, the cheapest snack of these three, but I've got to have a big group to use a superlative. I can't just have two things that I'm talking about, okay? O, por ejemplo, con películas, with movies. ¿Sí? De las tres películas aquí, Dumb y Dumber, Tonto y Más Tonto, es la película más ridícula. O quizás es la película más estúpida de las tres, of the three. Okay, so you've got to have a group of three minimum, but of course it could be bigger to do a comparison. That's the reason, or excuse me, to do a superlative. That is just what you need to do. Okay, it's kind of the baseline we start from. All right, so superlatives can be top of the heap, they can be bottom of the pile, the best or the worst, right? It'll be the two extremes when we're talking about a group. But we still employ, it's still based on that unequal comparison formula. There is still a formula from the old thing you practiced the last couple of weeks that comes back into play. So we already have part of the structure in our vocabulary that we don't have to, it's already there. It's an old structure. It's a couple of words that you already know, the más word and the menos word. Okay, so we're going to use them, but we use them in a slightly different word order, slightly different structure. And the only difference with a superlative is that we need a definite article. We need a word that means the to make it a superlative. We need a the word. El, la, los, or las. And of course, that's going to look at the item. Yeah. Bien. Then we're going to reuse this idea of the más or menos. So here comes the old part of the structure coming back, that you're already familiar with that word that is más, or if you put it at the bottom of the pile, that word that is menos. Yeah. And notice the que goes away, right? Más que, menos que, for comparisons of two things or two people or two ideas. But that word que goes away in this structure. We don't use a que. All right. So that is how it is different. It builds on similar words you used with comparisons, but there is a difference. Entonces, sí, Javier es el chico más grande, perdón, Javier es el chico más gracioso de la clase. Javier is the funniest boy in class, right? And notice, Javier es el chico más gracioso de la clase can get shortened down to Javier es el más gracioso. So the word we can get rid of, we might get rid of, is the word chico. So the superlative is not as clean a structure in terms of being consistent, because sometimes we'll pop a noun in, el noun descriptor. And sometimes that noun, we throw it out. How do you know? It's to say, Javier is the funniest boy. Javier is the funniest. And we don't say boy. That's it. So sometimes you'll hear el noun descriptor. Sometimes you'll just have el descriptor right next to each other. Okay. And it's a matter of choice. It's a matter of preference. It's a matter of, do you need that noun, chico, to be specific? Does it need to be specifically there? Okay.
Marilyn,
Sí.
when it says Javier es el chico más gracioso, it's if you leave out Javier, just going to say I'm just kind of confused when, in regards to, you're saying he's the funniest boy, but it's not specific. I don't know.
Yeah,
Never
Are
mind.
you, are you asking, can I leave out Javier?
Well, you're wanting to say most funniest in class, or you're wanting to say he's the most funniest boy in class, but if you just say el más gracioso, then you're not saying he's the most. I mean, if you leave out L, then you're saying that he's not.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I'm confused.
okay, I think I get where you're going. It's just a question of level. If I am taking Javier in that group of kids in the class, and I am putting him in terms of being the clown in the class, maybe the smartest or quickest, the smarty mouth kid, yeah. This el más gracioso puts him at the EST, funniest. That puts him at that level, at the top, the best guy. He's the class clown. He's the comedian. He's the one that stands out that everybody thinks of when they say the word gracioso. He's the example, top of the heap.
Right.
But the point of this sentence is that, you know what? And I'm going to put these in a different color to maybe make it clearer. I tried to put them in parentheses, but maybe putting it in a different color might make it a little more obvious. These words in red might be used to be super specific, but these words in red could be omitted and you still get the idea across. So in other words, there's a skeletal, a really slimmed down version of a superlative that can be okay. And there are these words in red that just make that comparison super specific. Okay. I might have a conversation that's going on about all the things that Javier did. Yeah, Javier did 5 things today that blew everybody away. And when I get to the end of that conversation, I no longer have to say he's a boy or he's in the class, because you already know that from the way the conversation went. So that Javier es el chico más gracioso de la clase can get pared down, shortened, truncated into Javier es el más gracioso. He's the funniest. He's the funniest what? Student, kid, boy. You already know he's a boy. You already know he's a kid. You already know he's in the class from what we told about the 5 things that Javier did today in class. Yeah. So somebody might pare it down. Javier es el chico más gracioso de la clase. They might pare it down, shorten it into Javier es el más gracioso. And that also qualifies as a superlative because we have the element of el más gracioso, those 3 things. Both are correct. One has a little more information than the other. But in the pared down version, it may be obvious what you mean, and that's why we cut it down to just those el más gracioso. Yeah. So what I'm saying is you may hear it a couple of ways, because kids will say to me, well, do I have to have that word chico there? Can I just say es el más gracioso? And yes, it could get pared down to something that short because I still have the element of el, the word, más gracioso, the comparison word. So you may hear it either way, okay? But the absolute must-haves must, to make it qualify as a superlative are a the word, el, la, los, o las, the word más or menos if you put it at the bottom of the pile, and the description, the adjective that you're
So he's the
comparing.
he's the most funniest in class, whether he's of all the boys and girls, I guess, really.
Of all the boys and girls. He could be just the funniest boy. He could be the funniest student. Javier could be the funniest kid in the whole school. Not just in his class, right? So this de la clase tells what's the big group we're picking out of. Okay. So the thing to notice about this is this de la clase breaks the pattern we have in English. We would say he's the funniest boy in class. Yeah. That's the most likely way we'll express that in English, but we don't use the word in. The word you need is de la clase, of the class, okay? So some of those elements can be dropped depending on what you want to say. Some things can be pared down, can be shortened, okay? Bien? And it all depends on context, all depends on, what you're talking about. So we can also use menos instead of más to put something at the bottom of the pile. Luisa es la chica menos agradable del grupo. Luisa is the least kind. She's not the nicest person in the group. She's the bottom. Okay. And we can get rid of that word chica. We can get rid of del grupo, and we can make it a shorter superlative. Luisa es la menos agradable. She's the least kind. Okay, bien?
Yeah.
So this del grupo, in the group, de la clase, in class, de la familia, in the family, del mundo, in the world, meaning just everybody. Yeah. Those are just examples of what might be qualify as the big group you're picking out of, right? Spanish uses de to talk about the whole group you're using in your superlative. They use de instead of en. So there's a difference there. And the other thing to remember is that we have to watch this descriptive word because it's going to look back. It's going to look back at the noun, yeah, to take its gender and or number. Carlitos es el estudiante más dedicado de la clase. And I might get rid of the de la clase if it's understood. Yeah, right? Carlitos es el estudiante más dedicado. Dedicado has to look back at that word estudiante. El estudiante más dedicado. It looks back at that word estudiante. It looks at that noun. Las luces de Navidad son las decoraciones más bonitas. Christmas lights are the prettiest decorations. Son las decoraciones. There's the noun it looks at. Ooh, bonitas takes its cue for what gender and number do I use. Takes its cue from the word decoraciones. And I might add de todo el año, in the whole year. Or I might skip it, right? Depends on how specific you want to be. Las luces de Navidad, Christmas lights, son las decoraciones más bonitas, are the prettiest decorations, okay? Los tamales son los platos más ricos. Tamales are the most delicious dishes. De la cocina mexicana, in Mexican cuisine, might be included, or you might not. You might just shorten it to los tamales son los platos más ricos. Okay, but all those things in blue, you could, if it were understood, even maybe drop those nouns. It is possible. What I'm trying to show you is you will hear different combinations of words, shorter structures for superlatives and longer ones. Okay. Okay, vale. So keep in mind, don't let it throw you if that noun, the estudiante word, the decoraciones word, the platos words, don't be surprised if it is omitted, because it is possible from what was said in the context of the conversation that it's understood and people may skip that noun word like you see in the blue up above. Okay. Vale. All right. So the other thing that's going to creep back in is that we've got these 4 irregular comparisons. And the definition of irregular comparison words, right? The mejor, peor, mayor, menor, those 4 words. They are considered irregular because they don't use a más or a menos. Okay, they don't use that more or less word. That's why they're irregular. They stand on their own. Okay. El mejor, the best. El peor, the worst. El mayor, the oldest. Generally, we use that to talk about people or, well, maybe animals, maybe if you have pets, I guess. El menor, the youngest. All right. And these are irregular because we skip that más word when we use them. But we do keep the el, la, los, or las to make them superlatives. So they come back because we still use them as irregulars. We still cut out the más word, but we do need to pair it with a the word. El, la, los, o las. El béisbol es el mejor deporte. El béisbol es el mejor deporte. Baseball is the best sport. El béisbol es el mejor. It's the best. And you might skip the word deporte. You might skip the del mundo, in the world, right? I still have a superlative if I shorten it to this shorter sentence of el béisbol es el mejor. Baseball is the best. I still have a superlative. I've just cut it down to the bare minimum, okay? El ceviche es el peor plato del menú. The ceviche is the worst dish on the menu. Okay, that could get shortened down, but still be a superlative if I cut it down to the bare minimum of el ceviche es el peor. It's the worst. Okay. Y Margarita es la mayor de sus hermanos. Margarita is the oldest of her brothers and sisters, that sibling group. Es la mayor. Okay. Pepe es el menor de su familia. Pepe is the youngest in his family. Okay. Vale, ¿sí? You know, we might cut the de sus hermanos. We might cut the de su familia. Pepe es el menor still qualifies as a superlative. Okay? Okay. And hopefully we'll get to a little bit. I don't know if we're going to get time to this. There are different ways of expressing superlatives. This el más is one way, but there are other things that can be used for superlatives. And this, well, muy, I don't consider a superlative. It just bumps something up. Yeah. Sí, mi amigo es muy social. He's very social. Muy is kind of bumps it up, but it's not really a superlative. I know one of the videos said, I gave it there, sumamente That also is superlative, but I don't think it's as common as this. This string right here is super, super common, and it qualifies just like es el más rico, el más rico. It qualifies as the same kind of superlative. This is really on a par. It's the same thing as using that structure. Isimo, isima, isimos, isimas. And they have almost almost the exact same thing, I think, in Italian. It's spelled a little bit differently. I think they do a double S, but isimo tagged on as a suffix onto the descriptor can be a superlative. I'll give you an example of what that sounds like here. If you want to say something is el más caro is the most expensive. See? Este plato es el más caro. Something that is the exact same thing, carries the exact same idea, is to say carísimo. Es carísimo. El más caro is equivalent to the idea of using just one word, carísimo. And I guess in English, you might say carísimo is like saying super expensive. Super makes it way up there. Es carísimo. And you know, when somebody says carísimo, that it's out of the ballpark. It's way beyond anything else. If somebody says carísimo. Okay, so they can take caro, that word caro, get rid of the o on the end of caro and make it carísimo. Only thing is, you got to make it carísimo, might be carísima if it's talking about, you know, something feminine. It could be carísimos for a plural. It could be carísimas. So this right here is a super common, extremely common way of saying superlatives. And one other thing to know, especially amongst young people who are 30 or younger. And am I going to say Latin America? No, I'm not going to, because I have heard Spaniards use this too. Super is, I think, amongst the younger crowd of people, also becoming a superlative, really. Super with the adjective. It's something you hear people use a lot, and that really bumps things way up. So what superlatives are about is intensity. And superlatives mean we're taking the intensity of whatever that quality is and we're bumping it way up, or maybe bumping it way down to the very bottom, right? So, por ejemplo, super, and super is always super. The nice thing about super is that it does not change. So amongst the young folk, you'll, María es súper activa. María es súper activa. María is extremely active. She's way active. All over the place. Es súper activa. Super is a superlative. Well, yeah, there you go. Easy to remember, right? So some examples of these. Carmen es guapísima. ¿Sí? El correo es lentísimo. Snail mail through the postal service, right, is the slowest. Es lentísimo. It's the slowest. ¿Sí? Los pasteles aquí son riquísimos. Pastries here are the most delicious. And that rico changing from a C to a QU is just a spelling thing. So when you're speaking, it makes no difference, right? Rico, riquísimo, rico, riquísimos. Yeah. If I told you take rico and make an isimo, you would say that. So don't worry about the QU. It's just a spelling thing that's got to be there, because if I had it R-I-C-I, it would be risísimo, because the CI in Spanish sounds like a s, and we want it to sound like rico. We want to have that co from rico. So that's why. It's just a spelling thing. So don't worry about that. Las entradas del Super Bowl son carísimas. Carísimas looks at entradas. Entry ticket. Ticket to get in, right? Entradas is feminine, so carísimas. They're the most expensive. They are just crazy expensive. See, Lori?
So I'm just noticing this. Is this pretty much a rule that for like guapo, lente, you drop the last vowel before you add the
You
isima?
drop the vowel if it's an O.
But what about lente?
Yeah, lento, lento, lentissimo, guapo,
Okay.
guapissimo. Okay, I'm going to give you an example when we don't have an O. Most of the time, you're going to hear it in a word that has an O. Yeah. Grande ends in an E. Grandissimo. You do drop that E. Oh, let me think of another one.
Well, my question was,
yeah,
I
you know
had a,
what? You do drop the vowel. El elegante would become elegantissimo. Elegantissimo.
okay.
Yeah, you drop that vowel at the end. Some things don't have a vowel at the end. If there's no vowel at the end, you just stick the isimo on. But yeah.
Because my
usually-
question was the word horrible. So would that be horriblissimo?
Horriblissimo. Yeah, I
How
would say that would probably be a word you wouldn't be likely to hear.
Okay.
But and technically some isimo words change a little bit with that spelling thing, but there are going to be more things, some things you're more likely to hear with an isimo, like caro, expensive, carissimo, yeah. Elegante, elegantissimo. You know, you're talking about all the people who wear the gowns at the Oscars presentation. See, es un vestido, qué vestido elegantísimo. What a super elegant dress, right? Or you might hear super elegante. You know, people will pick the superlative they feel like using. There it is. Es el vestido más elegante. They're going to pick the superlative they like to, they feel like using. Yeah. But the point is, they've got some choices on what they can use. So we're going to take some examples first where actually the examples are done for you so you get used to the pattern. Yeah. So we're going to start where we have already the pattern mapped out. And I'm going to underline some of these and put it up on our share screen, or we'll underline them as we go along. So here you're adding the idea. You've already got the comparison laid out. So we're going to see things where we've got a comparison laid out already. See, el helado es el plato más sabroso de todo el mundo. Ice cream is the most delicious dish in the whole world. Or el helado es la comida más sabrosa de todo el mundo. And sabroso looks back at that word plato, or sabrosa, and the second one looks back at the word comida and then goes feminine. Yeah, we have to look at that word. So we're going to show where we've got a superlative, and you're really supplying the idea, not the structure first. Boom, 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 boom. Es el parque nacional más hermoso de Estados Unidos. ¿Cuál es? Which one is it?
Yosemite.
Yosemite. Gracias. Yosemite es el parque nacional más hermoso de Estados Unidos. Yosemite es el parque nacional más hermoso. You could pare it down and just say Yosemite es el más hermoso if you already knew you were talking about Parque Nacional. Yeah. Okay. So you could pare it down a bit. Bien. Fantástico. Here we've got our structure already laid out. Boom, 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 boom. Es la ciudad más bella.
San Francisco era la ciudad
Ah.
más bella.
Era was. Okay. San Francisco era, Lori just made it a past. She made it a used to be. Era. San Francisco era la ciudad más bella de Estados Unidos. Used to be the most beautiful city. La ciudad más bella. And bella looks at that word ciudad. Bella gets the feminine form from that noun, ciudad, but we still have la and más and bella. And here you get to name a few, not just one. Boom, 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 boom. Son las ciudades más bellas de Europa.
I voted for Prague y Paris.
Oh, so did I.
Ah,
Me también.
Danita
That's
y
funny.
Marcos,
Yeah.
ok. Prague y París son las ciudades más bellas de Europa. Bien, bien. But just to show you that we can have a plural in the superlative category, we can, yeah. El deporte más divertido. The funnest, the most fun sport.
Definitive pickleball.
Pickleball es el deporte más divertido de todos. And notice, you might just see, you might say of all.
De todos.
Yeah, of all. Meaning everything that is
Yeah.
called a sport. Yeah. Okay. De todos. I'm just showing you typical ways that these might hang together. Typical ways you will hear these used. Okay. So that when you hear it used, you'll say, oh, that makes sense to me. It's going to be the pattern I recognize. Boom, boom, boom. Son los mejores actores del mundo.
Well, I said Jeffrey Wright y Paul Giamatti.
Okay. Son los mejores actores. And
But can I add one sentence?
sí,
Pero
claro.
Brad Pitt y George Clooney son los más guapos.
Son los más
correcto?
guapos, are the most handsome. Okay, vale. Hay una diferencia entre los más guapos y los mejores. Bien. Sí.
Marilyn, is there like in English, we have actors and actresses, although actors is used these days a lot for either one. Is there a Spanish similarity? Is there a feminine word? instead
There
of
is
actores?
actriz. Actriz. La palabra
And
actriz
plural-
indicates a
plural-
feminine.
Plural would be actrices.
Actrices, we turn the Z into a C to make it plural. Actrices. See?
And can you use actores anyway for women?
You could, and I think this is kind of getting into that realm of, I think even in English, the word actress, except maybe for the Academy Awards, they're going to have an actress and an actor category. But a lot of the actors themselves, when they speak about themselves, start to drop that actress. I noticed this a lot, I would say the last maybe 20 years. A lot of, in American English, at least, a lot of people are just starting to go more genderless and use the word actor for everybody nowadays. Until you get to that word category where we do a male and a female, then, they put the word actress in. Actriz, actor. And I would say that, yeah, probably carries over into Spanish as well. I think that's just kind of a worldwide trend. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just kind of the way things are going. Yeah.
And
It can
I
be
guess
the,
then for my answer, I had two women actors, actresses. So we'd have to change it instead of son los mejores to son las mejores.
las mejores, sí, las mejores. Mejor, yeah, mejores, mejor, making it plural. Those four irregulars of mejor, peor, mayor, menor don't get a gender because they're all four words that do not end in o. So they kind of follow that pattern in Spanish. Adjectives that end in o get masculine, feminine, singular, plural. Like gracioso, graciosa, graciosos, graciosas. But any old adjective that doesn't end in o, right, only really generally pays attention to singular and plural. So, por ejemplo, simple, simples. Yeah, simple ends in an E and it doesn't get a masculine or feminine. It just stays the way it is, but it can become plural, simples. Or difícil, again, doesn't end in an O, ends in an L. Difícil is masculine or feminine, but when we make it plural, we have to know we add an ES to the end, difíciles. And mejor falls into that same kind of category. Mejor, mejores. Mayor ends in an R. Mayor, mayores. Menor, menor, menores. Right? Peor, worse. Peor, peores. So those four irregular words do not end in O. We just make it plural with an ES at the end. See?
Well, and I think I missed something in there, but given what you just said, would it still be for actresses? If I were to use actrices, would it be son las
Las,
mejores, las, right?
las
You
mejores
still
actrices.
have to change the gender of the el,
Sí,
el la,
the
los,
word.
yeah.
Yeah. Whereas mejores doesn't get a gender change, that the word does have to go with the gender change. Las mejores actrices. It would never be los mejores actrices. Eso, sí. Las mejores actrices. Exacto. Okay.
And if anyone's curious, my choices for the actresses were Meryl Streep y Julia Roberts.
Ah, sí, bien. Muy bien. Estoy de acuerdo. I'm in agreement on that one. Okay. Vale. Bueno, la mejor película de los años 2000. So this is putting it in almost a generational category now. Ay, es 2024, ¿sí? La mejor película de los años 2000, of the 2000s.
I didn't have one from before 2000. I had one.
Okay, está bien.
La Perfect Storm es la mejor película del año 2000.
Perfect Storm es la mejor película. Sí, bien, bien. Ok, vale. Bueno,
And I have it the other way. No, we almost never go to movies anymore, but for the number 8, I just, this was tough. Blazing Saddles es la mejor película de antes del año 2000.
Blazing. Oh, wow. Recuerdo, sí, sí, cuando era universitaria, when I was a college person, cuando era universitaria, sí. Era una película muy popular, sí, Blazing Saddles. La mejor película de antes del año 2000. Pero otra es la mejor película, ¿sí? Bien. Bueno, el peor programa de la televisión, the worst TV show. Para mí,
Tracker,
perdón.
tracker. Tracker?
Okay. No lo conozco. I'm not even familiar with that one. ¿De qué se trata? What's it about? ¿De qué se trata?
Es con Kevin de esto, estos es nuestra. This is us. He played Kevin
Oh,
on This Is Us.
Somos nosotros. It's us. No lo conozco. Ok. Para mí, el peor programa es The Bachelor.
Oh, yeah.
Porque para mí es una idea ridícula. Es la idea más ridícula a pensar que una persona va a casarse con alguien después de una competencia. ¿Qué es eso? No, a mí no me gusta para nada. El peor programa de la televisión. You know what? There's plenty of fodder in this category to choose from, isn't there? El peor programa de la televisión.
Estoy de acuerdo. Entonces,
Sí, para mí. Tengo una sobrina, es una chica muy inteligente, pero a ella le encanta el Bachelor. ¿Y por qué? No lo entiendo, pero así es. El peor. Ok, el regalo más caro que recibí. El regalo más caro que recibí. The most expensive gift I received. That I received is que
Mi
recibí.
primer
Sí, Marcos.
carro, mi primer carro es el regalo más caro que recibí.
Bien, sí, eso es. Tu primer carro. En algunas familias es como un regalo, un carro puede ser un regalo para el cumpleaños de 16 o para un regalo después de graduarse
ujú.
y irse a la universidad, sí, por ejemplo. Sí, eso es. Bien. Bueno, ¿hay más o no?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. Vale. So there you had it plugged in so that you get used to the pattern, right? You get used to the pattern. Y bueno, adelante. Uy, ¿dónde están? Ok. Ahora, adelante. Next step. Now we take the training wheels off. Pero va a ser algo más relajado. It'll be a little bit easier to do. Uy, ¿dónde puedo ajustar? Muy momentito. I'm trying to make these bigger. Ok, a ver. Bueno, superlativos. So we're going to take the training wheels off here. And see, and now these words down at the bottom, emocionante, exciting, relajante, relaxing, peligroso, dangerous, estresante, stressful, sí, estresante, fascinante, delicado, delicate, sí, aventuroso, adventurous, adictivo, addictive, mejor, best, impresionante, impressive, peor, worst, difícil, difficult, fácil, etc. They are just ideas. It doesn't have to, the superlative doesn't have to be one of these words. Yeah, see? But we'll see if we can talk about C's. El alpinismo, rock climbing. El alpinismo. Can we build some kind of a descriptor out of that? Some kind of a superlative?
I'd like to
Es
say
más
stupid, but
difícil.
instead I'll
Mhm.
say.
Okay,
Well-
Lori, let's take you first and then Mark will take you. Lori?
El alpinísimo es más difícil que el golf.
Es el más difícil, is the most difficult. Okay, so now we're getting used to, yeah, the training wheels are off. We have to remember that el word. Es el más difícil de todos los deportes, out of all the sports. ¿Sí? Marcos.
I really wanted to say stupid, but instead,
You can
Well-
say that.
well, I could, but el alpinismo es el deporte más peligroso.
Es el más peligroso. Es el más estúpido. Si no te gusta para nada, if you don't like it at all, sí, es opinión. And let's see how we inject our opinion ideas. Let's see how we can compare that with an opinion leadoff. An opinion leadoff. Creo que, I'm going to show you how we tie that in. Creo que el alpinismo es el deporte
Más
más peligroso, es el deporte más estúpido, es el deporte más estresante. ¿Sí? De todos. Okay. So if you feel up to it, combine an I think that with your superlative. El golf.
Creo que el golf es la emocionante casa aquí porque mi tía fui. My aunt used to like it, so
Okay. So you
it's
want to
kind of an
say
emotion.
it's the most exciting game?
Yeah, it's most
Okay.
exciting.
Now,
game-
so
game,
remember,
yeah.
we have to have our el word. El golf es el más emocionante. O es el deporte más emocionante.
Oh,
¿Sí?
I forgot to put us in there.
We have to have el más emocionante to make it a superlative. Yeah.
Okay.
Bien.
Okay.
Bueno, ¿sí?
Bien.
Bien. Marcos, sí. Oh, and you're on mute. Perdón.
Me gusta el golf, pero creo que el golf es el deporte más lento.
Ah, interesante. Sí, es el deporte más lento. Sí, it's the slowest sport. Claro que sí. Vale, bueno. Muy bien.
Me parece que el golf es aburrido.
Es el más aburrido. Es el más aburrido.
Aburrido.
Okay, Okay. So we can use a creo que es el más aburrido. Sí, ok, vale. Creo que el golf es el deporte más caro,
Mhm.
sí. Porque hay que pagar mucho para jugar, sí. Bueno, cohetes, rockets. Los cohetes, rockets. Yo creo que los cohetes son los vehículos más modernos, the most modern, los vehículos más modernos, the most modern vehicles del mundo.
Sí.
Son los vehículos más rápidos.
Sí.
Son los vehículos más peligrosos. Peligrosos. The most dangerous vehicle. Vale. Bueno, la Gioconda. La pintura famosa de Da Vinci, ¿sí? La pintura que se llama La Gioconda.
La Gioconda es most fascinante.
¿Es la más fascinante? Okay, so remember we need our la. Es la pintura, the painting. Let's name
Es
it.
la,
La
es
pintura
la pintura
más.
Gioconda.
Well, Gioconda is what has to come up front. That's the title of the painting. Okay, so
Okay.
we're going to separate. We're going to lead off with that and then plug in our superlative after La Gioconda. La Gioconda es
más fascinante la pintura.
okay. La pintura más impresionante. I know this is why this is really training wheels off, isn't it? Because what word you get in which order is kind of critical. Yeah. So es la más impresionante. La pintura más impresionante. Or we can shorten it down to la más impresionante, the most impressive.
Okay.
La más. Okay, so let's look at this, Liza. What we want that the word, la.
La.
And now let's get used to plugging in a noun. We have to call it something. All right. We don't want to call her a chica. That seems kind of silly. Yeah. Es oh, you could say mujer. You could say mujer. You could say woman. You could choose that as your noun. But probably the most logical thing is that it's a painting. Yeah. Pintura. Es la, here's our the word, la pintura.
La
And now we've got
pintura
our más and description. La pintura más
fascinante,
impresionante.
impresionante.
Sí.
What's
Impresionante, sí. La Gioconda es la pintura, there's our noun, más impresionante, ¿sí? En el Louvre, en el Louvre, del Louvre,
in the
del Louvre, del Louvre.
Louvre?
Ok.
Okay.
O, por
Speaking Spanish.
ejemplo, la
Yeah.
Gioconda es la pintura más famosa del
In
museo, in the museum, ¿sí?
let's see.
And because La Gioconda is actually in reality kind of a small picture, it's only about that big in real life.
Yeah.
You could also say it's the smallest. Como se dice? It's the smallest picture. We're still going to take pintura, la pintura, but we're just going to call it the smallest one.
La pintura es el más pequeño.
La más pequeña. Es
Pequeña.
la,
Lo más pequeño.
es la
Pequeña.
más pequeña. There's our shortest superlative. La más pequeña or la pintura más pequeña. The smallest painting if we stick a noun in there. Okay? Bien? Okay.
Marilyn, on this one,
Sí.
what's the difference between la pintura and el cuadro?
And el
I thought I erased it. Now I'm trying to read what I wrote down. El cuadro.
cuadro, the picture. Okay. Buena
Okay.
pregunta. Good question. El cuadro would mean a picture as opposed to a painting. That's all.
Ah.
But because if you choose to say el cuadro, the picture, then it has to become el cuadro más pequeño or el cuadro más famoso, right? That descriptor word of famoso or cuadro or I'm sorry, perdón, or pequeño has to look back at that word cuadro. If you choose to use the word cuadro, it becomes el cuadro más pequeño, el cuadro más famoso. Okay, so that adjective looks at whatever noun you have plugged in there. Okay, I could even plug in a different noun that is harder to use, but I'll just say it so that you hear an example. Instead of calling La Gioconda la pintura, instead of calling it el cuadro, a picture, I could call it la obra de arte, an artwork. La obra de arte. La Gioconda es la obra de arte más famosa del museo. It's the most famous one in that museum. Es la más famosa. Bien. Or la más conocida, the best known. The best known, la más conocida. Literally the most known, but the best known, we would say in English, right? Bien. Okay. Las flores silvestres, wildflowers.
Las flores silvestres son delicadísimas.
Delicadísimas, if you choose an isima, sí, delicadísimas, muy bien. Yeah, son súper delicadas, but I have to make it sure I make it feminine, yeah. Súper delicadas, because it's their las flores, ¿sí? Son las plantas más delicadas, son las plantas más delicadas. Son las flores más delicadas.
Mhm.
Así. Son las flores más bonitas. Son las...
And
sí, no,
Las flores silvestres en Texas, por ejemplo, los bluebonnets, son las más hermosas.
son las más hermosas. Perfecto. Son las más hermosas. Bien. Ok. Vale. Son las flores más breves. They're the briefest ones out. Yeah, meaning they don't last as long. See? Bueno, el tejido.
Mm.
Knitting. I have many. Tengo muchas amigas a quienes les gusta tejer. Sí. No lo hago yo, pero tengo muchas amigas que sí tienen el tejido como su hobby, su pasatiempos. What could we say about that as a hobby? El hobby.
Mhm.
Knitting is the most something.
El tejido es más,
We could take this word. This word a lot of people use to describe this.
relajante.
Okay, and now let's make it the most relaxing. Es,
Es más.
and we need a the
Relax.
word. Es.
Más
We need an el, la, los, or las. El.
relajante.
El.
Es el más
Relajante.
relajante. Okay, so let's put a noun in there. Let's take hobby, which a lot of people have
Más
adopted.
relajante.
Sí, es el hobby más relajante. Es el hobby más relajante. ¿Sí? Es el pasatiempos más relajante. It's the most relaxing
Es
pastime.
el hobby más relajante. Right?
Eso. Sí, sí.
Oh.
Es el hobby más relajante. Yeah? It's not wrong to just say el tejido es relajante. Knitting is relaxing. It's not wrong to say that, but that doesn't put it at the top of the heap. See what I'm saying? Okay. So it doesn't mean you're miscommunicating by saying el tejido es relajante, but the difference is I'm saying this one really puts me in a Zen mood. Yeah. Okay. Out of everything in the whole list. Es el hobby más relajante. Bien. Okay. Vale. Adelante. Let's take a look at some descriptions you might use. You don't have to use these words, but you might use these words. Exótico, enorme, lujoso, interesante, sabroso, saludable, horrible, etc. So, exótico, exotic, enorme, huge, enormous, right? Lujoso, luxurious. Interesante, es obvio, sí, interesting. Sabroso, tasty. So the same thing as delicioso, just a different synonym for delicioso, right? Saludable, healthy, healthful, yeah? Horrible, if it's something that's opposite of sabroso, right? Or, well, the opposite of, the bad categories, right? Horrible. Okay. La ensalada de fruta, la ensalada de fruta.
I'll try one.
Okay.
Las ensalada de fruta es la más saludable que los alimentos fritos.
Bien, sí, sí, la más saludable. It's the healthiest. Eso, sí. La ensalada de fruta es el plato más colorido. It's the most colorful. Ok, vale, ¿sí? Bien. Ah, Jeff Bezos' house. That isn't really Jeff Bezos' house. Disclaimer, but you know, how I imagine his house might look. La casa de Jeff Bezos.
I tried just flipping this around just a little bit and was curious if the use is still good. Jeff Bezos tiene la casa más lujosa.
Eso sí. Tiene la casa más lujosa. He has the most luxurious house. Tiene la casa más lujosa. Perfecto, perfecto. Bien. Vale.
La casa de Jeff Bezos es más grande que la mía.
Es más grande que la mía. Wow, sí, eso es. Sí. La verdad es que la casa de Jeff Bezos es la casa más grande de Estados Unidos. Es probable, sí. Es la casa más grande de Estados Unidos. Probablemente, sí, con la excepción de quizás el señor Musk. Ok, las vacaciones en Roma. Las vacaciones en Roma. A Rome vacation. And we have to use vacation, even though it's a singular thing in English, it is always expressed as vacaciones, plural. Okay, that's just the way they use that word. So,
Las vacaciones en Roma son sumamente caras.
son sumamente caras, are super, yeah. Son super caras, son carísimas, son las más caras. Bien, exacto. Exacto. We could use emocionante, exciting. Las vacaciones en Roma son las más emocionantes. Are the most exciting.
Son los más, son las más memorables.
Son las más memorables. Are the most, sí, memorable. Sí, often that would be expressed. You can use memorable, but inolvidable, unforgettable. Inolvidable is often used. Inolvidable means unforgettable, and that is used, I think, more than memorable. Inolvidable, meaning you can't get it out of your mind. Son las más inolvidables. Sí, perfecto. And we go from something muy exótico como vacaciones to el pollo, chicken. El pollo.
El pollo es el más saludable de los carnes.
Okay, bien. What if we want to say that this is the best thing on the menu? ¿Cómo se dice the chicken is the best on the menu?
Es mejor.
Mejor, but we want to say the best.
El pollo es el mejor.
Es el mejor. El pollo es el mejor del menú. El
Es
pollo es el mejor del menú. What if you want to tell your friend the chicken is the worst thing on the menu? Avoid that.
Es el peor.
Es el peor. Es el mejor, it's up here. Es el peor, it's the worst. So that you know, you will hear both of those used, right? When people make recommendations. Es el mejor, it's the best. Es el peor, it's the worst. Bien. Y para hablar de esto, ¿sí?
Un pollo vivo es mejor que uno muerto.
Ok, sí, bien. Ok.
Repite, por favor. No, no entiendo. Repite.
Oh, un pollo vivo es mejor que uno muerto. A
Than a
live
dead-
chicken is better than a dead one.
than
I
a
don't
dead
know.
one. Yeah, eso sí.
It's just a comparison. That's why.
Ok. Vale, sí. Podemos decir, por ejemplo, sí, si hablamos de la guerra, sí, la guerra es la cosa más horrible del mundo. La guerra es la cosa más horrible del mundo. War is the worst thing in the world. Es la cosa, es la peor cosa del mundo. Es la cosa más horrible. Es la cosa más lamentable. Bien, okay, vale. So, our superlatives can be a little tricky to get the words in the right order, but it's important to know that somebody is putting things at the top of the list, yeah, or at the bottom of the list when they're describing them to you. Hay tiempo suficiente. Yes, there is some sufficient time. We're going to fit this in. I wondered if we would get time to fit this in, and we're just barely going to fit this in. And maybe we'll have a little hangnail of time where we won't get the whole thing. But this just kind of shows the variety of ways, all different kinds of ways you may hear superlatives expressed, because there will be different structures used.
Hoy vamos a hablar de un tema importantísimo en español.
And there's one superlative right there without the el más, but this is the same as saying el más importante. ¿Sí? Bien.
Un tema que debes conocer si quieres hablar un español muy bueno, buenísimo, óptimo.
Buenísimo, really good. Yeah, buenísimo is a superlative also.
Los superlativos. ¿Los conoces? Pues acabo de usar varios. Veremos qué son y cómo se forman los superlativos en español. Y por supuesto, como estamos en Story Learning Spanish, practicaremos cómo usar los superlativos en contexto con una historia. Recuerda, en la descripción del video encontrarás un enlace para descargar la transcripción gratuita. Y si aún no lo has hecho, sigue nuestro canal.
Oops, let's get that.
Es el grado mayor que puede tener un adjetivo. Es decir, usamos los superlativos cuando queremos expresar que un adjetivo calificativo tiene una gran intensidad. No decimos que algo está simplemente bien. Decimos que está muy bien, re bien, súper bien, mega bien.
And there are some superlatives I didn't even show you, but they happen. Putting re in front of an adjective is a popular way some people, it's bumping something up. It's pushing it into the higher categories. Yeah, that's what it does. So re, I did because look at all these different things. Super bien. Yeah, again, there's that super and mega bien. I didn't even do the mega.
Estupendo, estupendísimo.
Estupendísimo.
O muy mal, malísimo,
Malísimo.
pésimo.
No, pésimo.
Los superlativos se usan para mostrar
They're
intensidad
used to show
tanto
intensity.
positiva como negativa.
And keep in mind, superlatives are either positive or very negative, right? They make something at the top of the heap or the bottom, flush it down the toilet. They make it one or the other.
Los superlativos se dividen en dos tipos, los relativos y los absolutos. Los superlativos relativos los usamos cuando comparamos uno o más elementos con otros. Es decir, cuando mostramos la relación entre ellos. El superlativo relativo se construye usando la siguiente fórmula. Un artículo determinado y a
So there's your el, la, los, or las.
veces un sustantivo.
And here's where the noun would be, like Javier es el chico is where the plus would be, más, and there is the describer.
Más o menos, más el adjetivo. Por ejemplo, el Aconcagua es el pico más alto de los Andes.
Is the highest peak in the Andes.
Mariana es la más rápida del equipo.
She's the fastest girl, and we just don't say the word chica, la chica más rápida, but we can cut that idea of chica out, or es la mujer más rápida. We can cut the word mujer out, and we can shorten it to la más rápida.
Ellos son los menos graciosos de la película. Esas son las pruebas menos exigentes. Luego tenemos los superlativos absolutos, en los que no existe comparación entre elementos, sino que nos permiten calificar, mostrar que un adjetivo tiene una gran intensidad. Las dos formas más comunes de formar los superlativos absolutos son: 1. Colocar el adverbio muy antes del adjetivo. Por ejemplo, esa casa es muy grande. 2. Añadir los sufijos ísimo o érrimo. Por ejemplo,
Ísimo is more common.
estoy cansadísima. Allí pagan un salario paupérrimo.
Okay. The ísimo, I think, is a little more commonly heard. Cansadísima, cansadísima. Wow. Wiped out tired. Yeah. Cansadísima. I'm super tired.
Estos sufijos no se pueden usar aleatoriamente con cualquier adjetivo. Algunos adjetivos aceptan el sufijo ísimo y otros aceptan el sufijo érrimo. Esto lo irás aprendiendo con la práctica. Sin embargo, ten en cuenta que el sufijo ísimo es mucho más común que érrimo.
So know that the ísimo is the one you should focus on, because that's the one you're going to hear the most. That érrimo only goes with certain words, and it's a pretty limited number. The ísimo people are going to freely throw around. They'll scatter it everywhere. Yeah. So we're going to skip through that.
Pueden expresar algunos superlativos con un adjetivo totalmente diferente. Por ejemplo, en lugar de decir muy bueno, puedes decir óptimo. Y en lugar de muy malo, puedes decir pésimo.
So Really, really good. You know, we have the word optimum in English, right? Optimum means it's the top of the heap. So you may hear that, right? Pésimo, that word you really may hear a lot. When somebody says it's just the worst, it's el peor, but pésimo is often used. And, you know, mínimo, minimum, right? We've got that in English, and enorme. I'm going to try to squeeze in a little bit more before we sign off
Prefijos
here.
como super, mega, hiper, ultra, extra, re.
So I'll give you the link to this so you can hear the whole thing, and because we won't get to the whole story, and it's good for you to hear her story at the end, so she uses it in context. So just know that, you know, these are things we didn't put in with the lesson on superlatives, but these are other ways that you might hear people conveying that same superlative idea, with super, mega, hyper, ultra, extra, re, and that re is a little one that is kind of a tricky one, but it's slipped in there, that re. And I would take the top one, super, and the bottom one, re, and really, ooh, get used to those, because you can kind of guess the extra or the mega, but the super and re, you hear people use quite a lot. So we're going to go a little too far over, and I know some of you will have things that you need to tend to for your day, since we're at the end of our time. But do listen to the rest of this so that you hear her lesson with a little story in context, or little examples in context of how all of these are used. She's going to sprinkle them throughout. Yeah, sí, bien. And hoy es el 11, hoy es el 11 y la semana que viene. The week that's coming is going to be our last for winter, la semana que viene. So for the last one, I want to focus on, again, comparisons, but they're going to be equal comparisons. Okay. Before, we've been talking about more than, less than, the most, and we're going to compare things that are on the same playing level. Something is as good as hard as easy as. Oh, it's easy as pie. Yeah, we've got all kinds of sayings in English like that, right? Most people don't think anymore that making pie is a very easy thing to do, but nevertheless, it exists as and as easy as pie. It exists as a little saying in English, meaning that something is super easy. So we're going to take a look at equal comparisons. I'll give you a thing to look at, a video to look at, to think about that. We're gonna, for equal comparisons, putting things on the same level. My kid is as smart as your kid. That kind of on the same level. We have to kind of throw out that más o menos thing, and we're going to have a different little formula to plug in. You'll see from the video what that little formula is. And we will do some examples of that next week, la semana que viene. ¿Sí? Bien? Okay, that ties in our all things comparing and finishes up the winter on that note. Vale, bueno, entonces sí, nos vemos. Espero que tengan muy buena semana. I hope you have a really good week. Eso
You as
sí.
well.
Tú también.